Payroll Now by Integrity Data, your fully integrated, complete, and trusted U.S. payroll application for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Business Central. Payroll Now can be found and installed on Microsoft AppSource. I'm Danny Clemenson, Technical Sales Specialist at Integrity Data. I'll be walking you through today's demonstration. In this demo, we're going to walk through Payroll Now in the following sections: General Introduction and Navigation, Payroll Setup, Employee Information, Payroll Processing, Payroll Reporting, Tax Filing, and in the Employee Self-Service. Let's go ahead and begin with an introduction to Payroll Now and an overview of navigation. As we see, this is the landing page for the payroll professional. If we go up to the settings and click on My Settings, we're going to see the role center here for Payroll Now. And if I go out here, we're going to see that complete integration into Business Central, as Company Hub, Accountant, Business Manager, Service Manager are all roles within Business Central. The Payroll Now role center gives that payroll professional the security to see employee information and also process payroll. So in the role center here, on the top of here are my bookmarks, things that I go to frequently. Say, for instance, pay cycle periods. As we can see, up in the upper right-hand corner, the little tag here means it's bookmarked. Then it'll show up in my own personal bookmarks. Next, we go to the actions: Payroll Documents, Full Payroll Menu, which we'll be going into, Payroll Journal, PTO Journal, Payroll Report, and Employee Report. This is given to all payroll professionals that have the Payroll Now role center. Down in the insights, we're going to see Payroll Documents. It's going to show my documents that I've got a single payroll document to an employee, or my batches. I can see all my batches that are out here. I do have an open batch. Let's go ahead and click right on that. It will open that batch up, and then I can actually go right into the actual batch right here and see that to finish the batch processing. And we'll get further into that as we get into payroll batch processing. Back here, again, if I've got some hours approval or changes on the employee, those will show up here. That look and feel of Power BI and the Power Platform, as I look over into Earnings by Payroll Code, one that I always look at here is if I look at the different settings here, I can see overtime. I can drill right into overtime right here and see what this is about. Giving that look and feel also of Business Central, how integrated it is. And you see that page, you're going to see that you can open up or edit in Excel. This is across Business Central, whether you're in accounts payable, inventory, GL, accounts receivable. So I can actually open this up right in Excel here and further investigate why do I have overtime here. Next is Cost by Payroll Division. I've got earnings and employer contribution and employer tax. As we hover over these, also we can see what makes up that, and we can drill right into that. Again, that Power BI platform look and feel, where I can dig right into the information here. And again, you can see that page. I can open this up in Excel or edit this in Excel to further analyze the information. The employee summaries, I can dig right into the employees right from here. And my report inbox. These are for scheduled reports. So that is general navigation. Again, your own bookmarks, the actions that all payroll professionals get, the activities, the batches that are open, this Power BI, so I can look and drill right back into the information, or the payroll division, where I can have an hourly salary or union employee. Again, further dividing that out so I can do reporting on it and seeing the employees here. Next up, we're going to talk about Payroll Setup. Now we're going to walk through some of the options when setting up Payroll Now within Business Central. As part of the installation process, we already ran the Assisted Setup wizard is located under the Settings or Gear and looking at the Assisted Setup. You can also look for it under the Looking Glass. If we open it up, we'll see that the Payroll Now is part of the Assisted Setup. The Assisted Setup wizard is common across all areas of Business Central, including payroll. It helps quickly set up the main settings in payroll, including state taxes, local taxes, base payroll codes, pay cycles, along with payroll posting accounts to the GL. So let's get into setup. So go from the Actions pane, let's go to the Payroll menu, and let's go to Setup. These are the global settings for your system. Again, we can see the tenant ID, that's part of your licensing there, the country that your payroll is set up for. If you hover over the actual label, you're going to see a hyperlink to some information about it so you can read about it before you turn it off. Down here are some switchy things. Again, display employer taxes. Again, you can hover over that. These turn on off switches are typically known by our development as switchy things. So many switchy things to look at. Again, showing less here. Going down into batch payroll setup, more switchy things to turn on and off. Also, we look at the batch calculation code. This here is the default batch calculation code. That calculation is what builds the check setup. We can look at different types of checks to be set up. For your check stub, again, you configure your check stub to look like it wants to. Again, more switchy things to turn on and off. Blended check rate per HR check stub. ACH setup for your ACH file or your NACHA file that gets sent to your bank on processing. Again, US setup here. Some advanced settings. The advanced deduction setting, I'm going to point this one out here. This actually sets it up for garnishments and that. So at the employee, we can set up a vendor rather than going to a GL account for this information so we can actually produce an invoice in accounts payable to be paid. Some other stuff down here, split employer taxes, contributions by dimensions, use job and task, or set workers' comp code. Again, many switchy things to turn on and off. This is part of the actual implementation that they'll go through with you. Numbering, payroll setup codes. Here's the actual regular wage code is set to regular. Payroll dimensions, custom dimensions. That's all, again, part of setup and how you want to set that up for your system. Payroll matrix, your check signatures for the pay stubs, your tax form setup, your additional tax code setup, carbon copy email setup if you want to. The actual emailing of check stubs is part of your actual subscription, so sending those out to employees. The payroll user setup here. With this here, let's take a look at that. Here's the payroll user setup. As we can see, these users are set up, this top user, this D. Cassidy, is set up to only enter hours detail or enter piece rates, where my next employee here is set up, is able to see visible information about the employee and change things, or they're able to actually approve hours and also, again, hitting those things. Looking at the admin has the full rights. Along with my user, I have the full rights, and I've got maybe my counterpart when I'm out sick or anything like that, that they have pretty much the same rights as me. I just see that they don't have to receive automatic run reports. In the labor costing setup here, again, using labor costing to turn that on, just switching it on to use that, or synchronizing the same resource with Business Central Jobs environment. Next, we're going to talk about the web. This is the employee self-service. As we're saving files, the company files to a certain location, showing that these are company documents. The employee path to their documents, actually putting this out so you can push out W-2s, so paperless W-2s, out to the employee self-service. Down here is the visibility of the actual portal. So turning off some of these things or turning off everything, hiding everything. Maybe just all you want them to see is their posted payroll processing, which would be their check stubs. So let's look at it in the additional setup. We can see, again, more switchy things to turn on and off. Password protect the PDF email attachments. This meaning that you can push it so that the employee has to enter their social security number, or we can set it to the last 4 digits of their social security number for their password to open up their actual check stub after it's been emailed to them. Again, more switchy things to turn on and off, custom earnings, advanced PTO, advanced overtime, user-defined fields. Say, for instance, we want some information about the employee. This would then be presented on the actual employee card. User-defined decimal fields. These would be also defined onto the employee card. So I've got on this one, they may be every pay period, they get $10 or $20 towards reimbursement of tools. A per diem or a cell phone reimbursement. Again, we have more here that would be put out. User-defined Boolean fields. Say, for instance, we want to know, are they a resident of Lincoln, Illinois? Yes or no? Or something else. Maybe something to the effect, they can be used for emergency service. Yes or no? Down here is the additional web portal setup. Here's the picture used on there, putting our actual logo out there, putting your company logo out there, changing the check stub that you want to be presented out there. A website that we can put out here, training and support, and a web link. You could use, say, for instance, you had a SharePoint site that you wanted all the employees to go to. This would be part of the employee self-service so they can look at that information. Additional paycheck setup, using the PDF format, meaning that it's going to send out the check stub in a PDF format. As we set the security also on there, that PDF is going to be secured by having them enter their social security number or their last 4 digits of their social security number. So again, lots of things to go through as part of the setup, just the payroll setup, global settings. So the next piece we're going to talk about is payroll codes. Payroll codes, again, your earnings. Let's just do a new one and drop down here what we can set up. So again, we can configure this to what your system needs. So if you have different earnings codes, different deductions, different withholdings, different tax, of course, direct deposit and payment, meaning the direct deposit payment check, employer contribution, reimbursements and draws, also advanced loans. So if you want to give out to your employee some loan of some sort and bring that back in. So those are the payroll codes. Next is the payroll cycles. We can run multiple payroll cycles within a company. Again, we can do weekly, bi-weekly, semi-monthly, monthly, quarterly, semi-annually, or annually. Boy, you'd have to pay me a lot for my wife to agree to that annually one. Next is the payroll calculation formulas. Now, again, this is what builds the check. And as we looked earlier, I set this to here is my default payroll calculation. So if I look at the setup on here in the lines, this is going to show me what actually builds the check and what the sorting is for this when it's going to calculate on the check. So again, it's going to hit your earnings and it's going to hit the reimbursements and draws. It's going to hit the deductions, the reimbursements, all your withholdings. It's going to look at the direct deposit, what you have on there, what it wants to put out there, your employee taxes, employee contributions, and your payments and direct deposits. And you can also set up a bonus. So if you want to set up a bonus plan here, then maybe once a year you give out a bonus, you could set that up. Or a severance pay. We could do that with the calculation. Next, we're going to move over to the user setup groups. And as I talked about earlier, the divisions that I have set up in this company are hourly, salary, and union, or an executive division, or something to that effect. Again, this is up to your needs of your system, what that will be set up as. And these payroll divisions, what they do is, if you think of more of a classification of an actual user, they're an hourly employee. So therefore, an hourly employee, looking at payroll divisions templates, a PTO template. Say, for instance, yes, an hourly employee gets sick pay and vacation pay, but their actual, if I look at the sick pay here, their accrual hours is 0.75, where with a salary employee, they're getting a full hour every 40 hours. So again, the same is true with vacation pay. They can accrue at different rates. We can also set that up at anniversaries in that. So when the employee has hit that 5-year anniversary, we can change that accrual. So next on the division templates are the deduction templates. Again, the same rule is here. We can set up a 401k plan where the employer gives it maybe 3% to hourly employees, where a salary employee, maybe they get only 2% for a salary employee. Again, holds true for the health insurance and that. So that's payroll divisions, separating that out. Also with payroll divisions is more reporting than that. That's going to further segregate those employees. Many different report setups here so that you can change and configure a filter for reports, official payroll reports, paycheck layouts. Here's where you change those. Your employee field selection. Here's the actual codes. And then you'd have an employee field selection or a ledger field selection. Again, segregating. Those would be more configured to your liking on what you want to show up on the report. So the last thing I want to hit is the posting setup. Posting employee posting groups here, you can set up more than one. I've just got one set up for all employees, so it's inclusive to all the employees. And so where that sets up is in the earnings. So if we had a separate one, we could do separate here. My bonuses are for all employees. It's going to a GL account, and here's the natural GL account here. Same is true with withholdings and deductions. Again, it's true with the employer taxes, employer contributions, reimbursements, payment advances, and payments. So again, we went through setup. We talked about the global setting, and we talked about payroll codes, and that you can configure your own payroll codes to your needs. The payroll cycles, we can do weekly, we can do biweekly. The payroll calculation formula, this is what builds the check. Here's where it's going to go out when we're processing that. Again, the setup groups, the HR setup, the division, the reporting setup to set up, configure our own reports, what that's going to be. The employee division templates, PTO, and deduction, where we can set that at the division, what they get. And last is the posting setup. So far, we've talked through some general navigation and payroll setup options. Now let's take a look at an employee. So now let's take a few minutes and look at how to manage employee data within Payroll Now. So let's go to the full payroll menu, and let's go to payroll employee. Opening this up gives us a full list of all the employees here. Again, we see that page option here where we could open this up in Excel. And I believe this is a pretty good spot also to edit in Excel if you've got some mass stuff that you want to take a look at and make sure you got addresses correct and that. This would be a good spot for that. Over here, we see the fact box. So the employee that is selected here, here's his information. So let's go into Dan Doolin here. As we can see on the fact box over here, we get the same information. We can drill right into here and look at that information for his posted payroll documents. And again, we can see that he has no open documents. We got a mugshot of Dan. He's not too bad of a looking guy. His sick pay and his vacation pay, again, we can drill right into here and open this up. Again, that page options over here. So if we wanted to open up this in Excel and send it off to the employee, say, here's what your accruals are and what makes up your PTO. Down here, the earnings, overtime, regular matrix. Over on this side is general, giving the employee number, first, middle, last name, full name, his manager, and he's not blocked, meaning that we can block the employee from getting paid. That usually happens after you've terminated an employee. Communication, phone number, email address, emergency contact, who to contact. Administration here. He's a full-time employee, he's active, and here's his adjusted hire date. His employee posting group, he belongs to the all group. That has to be on his card. He needs to belong to a posting group. Payroll division, he's a union employee, again, segregating him out for PTO in that, and we'll show that. His payroll code, his payroll calendar code. He wants his check stubs to be emailed to him. He's also opting in for paperless W-2, which will show up in the employee self-service. His EEO code, his resource number, this synchronizing, as you can see, it's the same number here as it is here. This is a resource over in Business Central Jobs. So if I use timesheets, I can bring in timesheets to pay the employee. His login for the employee self-service, his position and his default union, some of his personal information here. Salary information, we'll get back to this in a few minutes. As you see, he doesn't have any rates or anything like that. His direct deposits, we'll come back to this when we look at the employee self-service, federal withholdings, ACA setup, and some user-defined fields as we talked in Payroll Setup. Some employee information. He's available for emergency service, pay period to reimbursement. He's going to get a $20 reimbursement on each paycheck. He's got a per diem of $500 on each paycheck and a cell phone reimbursement of $30 on each paycheck. And he's also a Lincoln, Illinois resident. So let's dive a little deeper into the actual information about the employee here. Here's the salary card. As we see, he's a weekly pay cycle. His salary type is hour. And his regular weekly hours will be 40 hours a week. And he's using hours detail. Using the hours detail means I'm going to bring in time either into hours detail from timesheets or from hours detail entry. So being there's no dollars there, let's take a look at where that's coming from. So under the employee, the earning matrix. And so we can see that he belongs to these different unions, and here's his position code for each one of these union positions. Over here we see $0. That's because it's coming from the union matrix. We'll come back to show where that is in a few minutes. So the next piece, looking at the division piece, here's his deductions. He's getting all of the pieces, as we've seen the 401k and the health insurance, from that division template. Also on his PTO, he's getting that sick and vacation pay from that division template. So let's take a quick look back at that union matrix, which will go into a different part here. We'll go down into positions under setup group, and let's look at those pay matrix over here. This is where he's getting his dollars from. So when he's an apprentice 2 and he belongs to this union, so his dollars, when he works in that union for under apprentice 2, he's going to get $20. So that's where those dollars are coming from. Back to the employee and back to Dan here. That's a quick overview of all the employee information you can manage within Payroll Now. That's a quick overview of all the employee information you can manage within Payroll Now. Let's go ahead and walk you through the payroll process. In this section, we're going to walk you through the most exciting part of payroll, processing and paying our most valuable resources, our employees. First, we have to bring in time for our hourly employees. In this example, the time has been automatically imported from a timekeeping system which would use our REST APIs. Keep in mind, there are several options to enter time into Payroll Now. Examples are to bring in hours through entering hours in hours detail and entering hours right here. Again, the time has already been brought across here through an API. So rather than this coming through an API, we could also enter hours by adding new records to this, or cutting and pasting from an Excel template. Or we can also bring time over from the timesheets in the jobs module within Business Central. This is why, as part of the setup, we turned on the Synchronize Employees to resources in Business Central. So first of all, with the hours detail here, we're going to have to process this and register the hours. We could have it go right into the hours detail from the time clock system, but this showing the functionality of entering hours here or cutting and pasting from an Excel template. So our hours are in there now, and we can see them over into the hours detail. So now is my favorite part. So let's bounce out of here. So now let's go over to batch payroll processing. Open this up. We don't have any batches, so we'll click on New, select New. If I did my homework, the correct batch will come up for this week. I've closed everything else off for week 43, so I select that. Down here is the payroll calculation formula. As reviewed earlier, there's regular, there's bonus, and there's severance pay. Again, you can do batches for those, but this is set to the default. So that's what's going to build our checks. We're going to add a filter here just to show the capabilities. Looking at payroll division, again, this database is set up with an hourly, a salary, and a union division. Again, you can add more of those. So we could actually just run it for our salary employees. We could segregate our actual batches here. For demonstrations purposes, I'm just going to select them all and run that. So now this is going to go through that payroll calculation and build our payroll documents. Once completed, this will give us a window showing our payroll documents within payroll. As we can see here, here's our payroll batch and all of our checks. Now that the batch has been built, let's take a look at a report. Let's open up the payroll report. We're going to send this right to Excel to take a quick look at it. So let's open it up in Excel. We'll bring it over in editing, which we're really not edit. So again, we can see the full payroll. You know how it segregated everything out for all the earnings, cell phone reimbursement, employee reimbursement, that per diem, that tool reimbursement, health insurance. Here's that child support down here, federal, FICA, state taxes, worker comp, employer contribution, union pensions, and then the check, showing the totals on the bottom. So now that we've built the batch and we've taken a look at the report, we want to take a look at how I can change something. This person's check, this Carl Clemenson, this check and amounts don't look correct to us. He's a new employee. We want to get his check right. So we can go right into the actual check here. So let's go into the actual payroll document. It's not a check yet. My apologies there. It's still a document until we actually print the check and post it. So let's take a look at this. This does not look right. So we can actually go right into the employee card here, go to that employee salary, and note it's supposed to be 105. Somebody made a mistake. Let's tab off that. It's now saved. And we'll also see that it's been changed. Who changed it? Close that. Close the employee. We can resuggest the lines then on this check. And again, we used calculation. So we're going to go ahead and hit this because we can delete the actual document and reproduce the document. Again, we can see that it's changed. It looks correct. Now that we've reviewed the actual batch, corrected our mistakes, we're ready to finish the process. So let's go to Actions. And we're not going to send the check stub. We're just going to print the checks over here. Note that there's no check number yet. So again, Actions, and we're going to print all the check stubs. We're going to print them, and it should print them right to screen so we can take a look at them. And so here's all our check stubs ready to go to the next process. So now we'll see we've got check numbers, and we also have that the check has been printed. And if we were emailing this out, it would show all of these were emailed. So the next step of the process is then our electronic payments. This is where we export our ACH file If we do make a mistake from there, we can actually go further. We can void that. We can then void all the checks and reprocess. But we're not going to push this out here because I don't have a bank set behind here. So we're going to do the last part of the process, and that's actually posting the documents. My favorite part is if everything posts, the batch disappears, and we can move forward with our processing. Our process is done. And this all moves over now to the journal, over into history, and moves into the GL. Yes, success. All documents have been posted. The batch is gone. And now all our posted payroll is over in the posted payroll. Also then, we're looking at the ledger entries here. Here is all the ledger entries. Now if I look at the reports here, I'm going to see all the different reports I can run on the actual ledgers. So just a couple of cleanup items. The next thing I'm going to do is my periodic processing, and that's going to do my payroll tax payments. This is where I would process this right now. And now we can see that the taxes have been transferred to the Payroll Now tax service. So we'll bounce out of here. The last part of our process then is to go to our pay cycles and our pay periods. Expand this and close the actual pay period. So for next week, we're ready to process again. So to summarize, we did the hours detail. We entered hours detail, which brought it over to hours detail entry. We did a batch processing, printed the checks, created our ACH file for the bank, and then posted the documents. That was processing a pay cycle for all employees within Payroll Now. We talked a little bit about tax filing. The next thing we'll talk about is Aca Compliance. So now that we've posted a payroll, let's take a look at Analytical Reporting. So on the front screen here, we have that look and feel of Power BI, what we talked about before. Again, hovering over sections of the actual graph here, we're going to see information, or we can drill right into this and pull it out into Excel. Or in the Division Center here, we can look at earnings, and just hovering over these, or actually clicking into the information. We also see down here some more reporting on what approval in that is out here for us to grab. So let's move over to the full payroll menu now, and let's look under reporting. The first one here, the payroll report, this is the same report that we ran when we had an open batch. It's the open documents, but also we can run it against ledger entries. We can customize layouts for this, so you can have different filters for this that you want to pull out and run the report against those. U.S. tax reports, your 941, your 940s, your W-2, your W-3, and here's also where we push out the distribution of the W-2s for those that opt in for a paperless W-2. We have some financial reports, check register, trial balance, payroll employee information, personal information, employee wage information, HR reports, that garnishment report, employee deduction information, applicant history, field selection reports. This is where we can also configure reports under employee fields or under payroll ledger fields to grab information. PTO reports and labor costing information. So let's go up to next. Let's look at posted payroll. Again, we can filter on this. Say for instance, we want to look at week 7 and go over to page, and we can open up this information right in Excel to further investigate. Again, kind of an ad hoc reporting there. We can push back to all here. We can close this and still have that page information there. So let's go over to the payroll ledger, and there's more information under here, more reporting under here, where we can see under here, we can see the payroll report, hours earning code, payroll check register, the 941 reconcile, state income tax report, local income tax report, SUDA, FUDA, additional tax reporting, and employer contribution and earning by month by state. So more reports there. Also, again, we can filter this out. We can go down to filter maybe just by earnings. And again, you see that page is right there, so we can pull this out to Excel and further investigate. The next section I like is the payroll statistics. And this gives you a visual of where the actual dollars are going in that. And you can see that here's the year-to-date salaries in that. We can filter on this then. We can filter a date range, or let's just open up that Dan Doolin again and take a look at him. And you'll see that this will filter this down just as information again. You can drill any place you see these hyperlinks. You can drill right into that information and open that up. Again, that page and open in Excel is everywhere within Business Central. So there's many different things in the reporting that you can do. We also integrate with Solver BI 360 or Jet Reports. We also work with the Power Platform, the Power BI, and I've published tables out here, and here's a report that I built myself. And again, if I can build this stuff, I'm considered a citizen developer, really not having to be doing any type of coding or anything like that. If you can do stuff in Excel and make Excel reports in that, very easy to do. So I've just got I put this information out here. I've got my employee number, first, last name, pay cycle, the document that's out there, the gross pay, the payment, the hours that were pushed out there at that time, the deductions, contributions, my employer tax, my reimbursements, and some other withholdings. Again, I've just selected on the employee here. I've also added so that I can give all the information on the employee all kind of in one dashboard of what the information is here. You can see his position, his EEO code, his manager, his gender. Looks like I'm missing his title, so I need to put that title in there. A good place to check this information. Hire date, last review, his birthday. Also, the remaining sick and the remaining PTO. Again, I can use these slicers, which are in Excel also. It's just slicers. So I'm slicing over to the next employee, and as you can see, the information is there. So we've got many different options on reporting. Again, we've got our front screen here that gives you that look and feel of Power BI and being able to drill into the information on the visuals, the reports here, and then the history, and really doing some type of ad hoc reporting on the payroll ledgers. Again, we've seen that we have lots more report options there, and the payroll statistics. Again, that look and feel to grab that information, click on it, open it up so you can grab that information. Again, Power BI, the Power Platform, being able to use that, the integration to Solver BI 360, and then also using things like Jet Reports. So that concludes our demonstration. In this section of the demonstration, we're going to review the administration of the self-service portal. Then we're going to log into the portal and review its functionality from the employee's point of view. So let's get started. Let's go to the full payroll menu, and we're going to go to Payroll Setup. In the bottom of the Payroll Setup is the web. Here's where the employee portal is set up. So we're going to save the files to the database. We're going to have a location for the company files, such as an employee handbook. And then we're going to have a path to the employee documents where we're going to send W-2s if they opt in to have paperless W-2s, or if you have something like a non-compete that we can upload into there. We're also going to check companies, and we're going to turn on direct deposit to be editable. Down here, we're going to see the visibility. We can turn off certain things, what we don't want to be visible. As you can see, we've got a couple things that aren't visible. We'll next go up to additional setup, and we'll look at the additional web setup. Enable web portal logging. We're going to use the picture out here, the icon of the company. We could use a different check stub if we wanted here. We have a website here. This is just for support. I've got it out to the Integrity Data support site. This can be changed to something like a SharePoint site or a video library that you want to have employees watch. Also, we have the web portal log here from the payroll setup, so we could see who's actually logged in and when they logged in to the actual portal. Next, we'll go over to periodic activities and take a look at the web portal documents. First of all, we can upload files here to the actual portal. Here we're looking at the company path here, and this is where that employee handbook is. Next, looking down to the next path is an employee path. Note the dash before and the dash behind the employee number, encapsulating that so that it's secure to that employee and their portal. Down here we've added a non-compete for this individual employee, again wrapping it by the dashes in the employee number, and then down here the employee docs, wrapping that the employee benefit summary, and I'll show you where that's built also. So next in there is we have the onboarding documents. These are the onboarding documents. Once an employee has been set up and has a valid email address, we can send these documents to them to review, fill out, and sign, and upload to the portal. Next is create employee benefit summary. This is that document that we saw earlier. This is going to give that benefit summary, what their salary was, what the benefits are, so on and so forth, listing those out. Next, we'll pop over to the employee, and let's take a look at Dan Doolin here. And let's look under related here. We're going to see under the HR information, we're going to see those employee documents that he's signed and he's actually uploaded. Or we're going to take a look at next is the employee signatures. These are the documents that he's signed off or downloaded. Next, we're going to take a look at the dependents. These are the dependents, and we can add or change dependents or delete dependents from the actual portal. So last, we're going to take a look at sending the onboarding documents. When we click this after we've set up the employee, it's going to send those documents out to the employee to review, sign, and then upload into the portal. So let's move out to the employee portal, and let's log in as that Dan Doolin. And we're going to see over here his name. We're going to see a main menu. We're going to see the employee. We can change the password here. Next, we're going to come back to the main menu. Next, we're going to take a look at Enter PTO Request. This is going to show what's available for his sick time and also for his vacation time. As you can see down here, he's submitted two pieces, one for sick time and one for vacation time. Here's the hours entry. We went and showed you the first, the sick time and that, so we could take a look at what he had prior to asking for those. So you can see his time in, time out, and the hours, the job, the task, customer group, and department code. So next, we'll see the actual posted payroll processing. This is where he can go grab his check stub. So if we click on here, it's going to zoom into the actual check, so we can self-service rather than coming to HR to ask for some check stubs. We can send the email document also, but it is going to have that security behind it where he's going to have to enter his social security number when he opens up that document. Hours requested history. So this is stuff that he's been approved for, again declined, what he was declined for, and his posted hours that have actually been paid for. Next, we'll take a look at the employee change request, and we're going to make a quick change here. So let's just change this from Northwest to NW, and let's submit this successfully. And here's also then where we could add a new dependent or change the dependents that are out here. Again, we can see the information here. Next, his direct deposits. Here's his two direct deposits. If we wanted to add a direct deposit or if we wanted to change the direct deposit here, you can see that he's got a direct deposit going to a savings account for $230, and the remainder, the percentage, 100% of the remainder is going to go into his checking. Company documents. Here's that employee handbook. He's signed off on it. As we look over here, we can actually show that signature, or we can actually open up the document. Same is true with the employee documents. This is where the W-2 came in. So he hasn't signed off for it yet, so let's go ahead and sign off on this and accept that. And it'll show back at the database that he's now signed off for it. We can also open it up and we'll see the W-2 or the employee non-compete, he signed off on that, or the employee benefit summary. Employee upload files. Here's those documents that we sent to him. He's read over, he's filled them out and signed them and then uploaded them into the system. Next is that support piece. This is a website that it's going to go to. Again, you can change that website to whatever website you wanted it to go to. If you wanted to go to a SharePoint site or some video library or benefits, we've gone over the employee self-service, and we've also gone over the setup, where the documents reside, and where the documents reside on the employee. So that's the end of the demonstration. We've gone over general introduction and navigation, payroll setup, employee information, payroll processing, payroll reporting, tax filing, and the employee self-service. Thanks for watching.